Okay, so what we're going to do today is offsets in a couple of different ways for both a text and a PNG transparent image. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get my text. I'm just going to type out my name and then change my font to whatever font you want to use. I'm going to use my favorite, which is the Archipelago. You can use the plus sign on your keyboard to zoom in, like I do here. In order to change the size of the font without stretching it, you have to use the font tool. Just as a heads up, I did it backwards for whatever reason, and then you use the minus sign in order to zoom out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 6 different copies of this image. So first I'm going to do path ungroup or object ungroup and then path union. And that will make this one single path for us to offset. And then I'm going to make 6 different copies of this so that I'll have the background, that's the offset, and the original text to lay over it, and so you can see what the offset looks like when you're going to cut it out of your Cricut. And I'm just going to make each of these a different color. We'll do one blue, one red, one purple, just so you have a visual difference on which one is which. Okay, so the first way that we're going to do the offset in Inkscape is to do what is called an outset. So first thing you need to do is go to Object, Ungroup, and then go to Path, Object to Path, and then you're going to go to Path, Outset, and you'll see it get a little thicker each time you click on it. And depending on how thick you want it, how thin you want it, you just keep doing the path outset and it will get a little bit thicker each time. Then I bring over the original text, select both of those boxes. Inkscape can kind of be a little funny sometimes. And then go to Object, Align, and Distribute. That will bring up this menu over here on the right. And then we want to center vertically and center horizontally just to see how it looks when you're going to cut it out. So that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and go to Object, Group, and then move it over to the side. Alright, once you got that moved over to the side, we're going to go ahead and try the next type, which is going to be the dynamic offset option. So for this one, we're going to do Object Ungroup, Path, Union, and then go to Path Dynamic Offset. You'll notice that a little diamond appears above that T. I zoom in pretty closely. I feel like I have more control if it's a bigger object than if I'm far away. And so all you're going to do is take that diamond and kind of stretch the line out until it's as thick as you want it. The thicker that you do it, it can get a little bit warped, so just be wary of that. Go ahead and switch back to your regular pointer and do the same thing here. We're going to select both layers and then go to Align and Distribute, center vertically and horizontally. There we go. And then zoom in and just make sure it looks like what we want. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Object, Group, and move that one off to the side as well. Okay, and the last way we can do the offset that we're going to do today is the fill and stroke option. This one's a little bit more tedious in the back end, but I like it because you can kind of control it better. And especially for these thin fonts, I would really recommend doing one of the other options, but I'll go ahead and show you how to do it anyways on this one. So we're going to go to Object, Ungroup, Path, Union, and then to Object, Fill and Stroke, and that will bring up the Fill and Stroke menu here on the right-hand side. You go ahead and select Stroke Paint, and then do Solid Paint, and select your color, and then go to Stroke Style. Now, it just depends on how thick you want your offset to be. This one gives you a little more control. I find that about 5 points is about right for this thinner, and then we're going to go to Path, Stroke to Path, and then Path Union. And then go ahead and center everything and then group it together. And then we're going to file, save as a Inkscape SVG. And then we're going to go over to Design Space and delete what we were working on before and go ahead and upload that SVG. Go ahead and select it. Make sure that all three of your options are there and hit save, and then we're going to go ahead and insert it into your project. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it better, and then go ahead and ungroup so each of the three will be grouped by themselves. And then the first one that we've got here is the one that we did with the Outset. You can see that it's all ready to go. There's just 2 layers there. Same thing with the red. The background offset is there for you to cut out. The only one that's a little bit more work is the fill-in stroke version. So if we ungroup here and go ahead and move that off, you'll see that there's multiple, I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger, and you can see that there is multiple layers on the offset portion of this image. So what I just do is select it while it's already grouped together, and then go ahead and weld it. And there you have your offset. It's 1 layer, and then you're good to go. I'll go ahead and add it, send it to the back, that way you can see what it looks like. And you'll notice here on the side that for these initial texts, they're showing up as separate letters. So just go ahead, you can go ahead and select attach, or go ahead and weld them together, and they will become 1 line for you to cut. Here we go, so just do all 3 of them, and then there you go, you have the 3 different options for how you can do the offsets, 3 different layers, and then you go ahead and cut it out and make it however you want it. And those are the ways that I do text offsets in SVG in order to upload them into Cricut Design Space. Okay, so the second thing we're going to do is a transparent PNG image. So it's the same kind of idea, but instead of doing text, we're going to do an image. So I'm going to go ahead and open it in Inkscape. I've got this Stay Humble Hustle Hard image that I got off Etsy. Go ahead and open it. Maximize my window and zoom out. And for this one, I'm going to do the same thing that I did, but we start a little bit differently. So we go to Path, Trace Bitmap. And we want to do multiple scans, but only bring it down to 2 scans. And then we want to stack and then remove background. Hit OK, and then we can go ahead and move off the top layer and delete the back one. The top one is the Trace Bitmap version, so we're going to keep the top one. And then I'm going to make the same 6 copies that I did before of the other one. I did this a little bit too fast, so I think something went weird. You'll see here in a minute, some of them have like gray attachments. I'm not sure what happened, but here we go. I'm going to ungroup those and delete that lighter back one. See, it's not everybody. It doesn't always go perfect for everybody, trust me. There we go. All right, and so I'm going to do the same colors for these. I'm going to do the light blue and the red and the purple, because we're going to do the same thing for these ones. So I'll go ahead and bring over this blue one, and then we're going to Object Ungroup, and then Path Union, and then we're going to do Outset. And we're going to do Outset again. I think I do this one 3 times just to kind of give it the thickness that I want to see. And then drag over your original text. And it's the same idea, right? So we're going to select both of them and then align and distribute, and then center horizontally and vertically. Make sure it's where we want it. Go ahead and Object Group and move it off to the side. Same thing with the red. Red is going to be the dynamic offset, so we go to Object Ungroup, Path Union, and then go to Path Dynamic Offset. And it's the same thing as the text. Go ahead and zoom in, and you'll see that little diamond over the A, and go ahead and stretch out that outline to however thick you want it. I want a little bit thicker on this one. And then grab your original text, which I think right there is where I messed it up. And see how it has that gray that's attached to it? Not what I meant to do. So I have to ungroup it and recenter it. So you'll see me do that here in just a second. So I realize that they're connected. There we go. Go ahead and select them, and then you want to align and distribute, center, center, and then group them together, bring them off to the side. And then same with this third one, we're going to do the fill and stroke. Go to Object, Ungroup. Fill and stroke. And then we're going to go ahead and do, I think I went with 5 pixels or points on this one. It's really your personal preference. I wouldn't go too thick on it because it'll confuse it when you get to where you have to upload it into Design Space. So you go to Path, Stroke to Path, and then Path Union, and then go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to overlay these, and then center, center, and group together, and then go ahead and save your file as an Inkscape or plain SVG. Whatever kind of SVG you want to save it as is fine. Go ahead and hit save. And then we're going to go on over to Cricut Design Space and upload our image. There it is. We've got all 3 sets. And then go ahead and hit OK. And then we're going to insert it into our canvas so we can look at it. This one comes through pretty large. So I bring it down to about 15 inches tall. That way it's a little bit more manageable. And then ungroup them. And then it's the same as the text, right? So we've got the 3 sections, the one with the outset, the one with the dynamic offset, and then the one that is the fill and stroke. So these are the same. You'll see on these that they've got that gray extra layer. You can just ungroup that and delete the extra layer. I'm not sure what I did to make it have an extra layer out like that. I think when I duplicated them, I must have had something selected. But it doesn't do that every time. It just did it this time for whatever reason. So you'll see me delete the layer here in just a second. There we go. Those ones are ready to go. And then this one is the one that is a little bit different. So that one's all ready to go. That one only has the 2 layers. It bothers me when it's not lined up, so I reline it up and then group it together again. Don't judge me. And then this is the same where we ungroup it and move that top layer original text off. You'll see me delete that light gray layer and then move the original text off. And then the ones that are already selected, I go to and weld them together to get that offset. And then we are ready to go. And again here, I'll move it to the back so you can see the offset. They're all a little bit different. Each kind of version is a little bit different in style. The outset one, you'll see in the circle of the bees is a little bit thinner, and then the dynamic offset I went a little bit thicker, and then on the fill and stroke you'll see that the bee is fully filled in. So it just depends on what you're looking for and which you find the easiest, but those are the 3 ways that I do offsets in Inkscape to upload them into Cricut Design Space to be able to put on my tumblers and such things as that. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and have fun with Inkscape and Design Space.